Well, welcome to 20 Minutes with Mike. I have a great episode today, and I'm going to be talking about three books and how they interact and why it's important that you read a lot because you will find these connections. So the three books that I'm going to talk about are The Road Less Stupid by Kenneth Cunningham, I'm sorry. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Wilkin and Leif Babin, and The Third Door by Alex Banayan. Now, if anybody who watches any of these or seen any of these episodes, you know that I read a lot, and I like to talk about various books that I think can be and are important to running a law practice, running any kind of business, and just sort of organizing your life. I mean, if you think about it, right, you have a period of time on this planet, and probably most of us have goals, things that we want to accomplish. And in order to then the question is, well, can I get all of those things done in this relatively short window of time? And so these three books are books that I think interplay really, really well. So let me just get started. So the first book that I want to talk about, which is the first book that I read this many years ago, Extreme Ownership, How the U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win by Jocko Wilkin and Leif Babin. Now, the takeaway, I mean, there's lots of great anecdotes and stories and whatever, but the takeaway of this is that you are responsible. You are responsible for yourself. You're responsible for all those underneath you. You are responsible for your business. If something goes, if an employee in your business is not performing the way you want, the first question in your mind should be, where did I fail to teach that person what they need to know in order to succeed? That needs to be your first place, because in reality, many times that is exactly the problem, is you haven't been clear and concise about exactly what your expectations are, or you're not measuring them properly, or you're not giving people feedback. You just can't assume, especially in a professional setting like a law office, you just can't assume that somebody walks in, even if they've worked in another law office or maybe many law offices, they walk in and they understand what you need and what you want. So the takeaway from Extreme Ownership, at least for me, was you're responsible. You're responsible for your conduct. You're responsible for your business. You're responsible for your life, and you're responsible for your happiness. Now, many other sources, and in all honesty, I don't remember if they actually talked about it here, but there's basically two things that go on in the world. There's the things you control and the things that you don't control. And the things that you don't control are huge and vast and encompass 99.9% of the world, right? What do you actually control? You control yourself. And so I think what they're really the message that this book is trying to get across to you is that be responsible, be accountable for what you do, both good and bad. You don't have to be a bragger, but be accountable. When you make a mistake or there's a failure in your business, don't go blaming someone else. Start with yourself. Figure out where you might have done better and use that as a starting place. The other thing that I remember this book really talking about is the fact that discipline is the road to freedom, right? So if we're going to be responsible for ourselves, we're going to be responsible for our business, and we're going to be responsible for employees and people that work under us and do things that we ask them to do, then we have to have the discipline to actually do the things that need to be done, which is giving proper instruction, giving proper feedback, giving and when I say all this, I include yourself. I include, when you do something, if you're successful, give yourself some feedback, give yourself some praise, give yourself a pat on the back. When you don't meet your expectations, be responsible, take an analysis, do an autopsy if you have to, figure out what it was that you could have done better. These are the things that you can control, right? You can't necessarily control the outcome. You do a jury trial, or you do a motion, or you do a negotiation, and you don't get what you want. You got to ask yourself, why? Is there a way that I could have done better? Is there a way that I could have maybe gotten a better result? If you don't do an autopsy, you're not going to grow. You're not going to get better. All right. The second book that I want to talk about is The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. Now, this book and The Third Door were recommended to me by a podcaster who had me on their show, and I immediately ordered these and have read them. So, and I think that they're really important. And I think, again, these all intertwine. So we've already established through extreme ownership, right, that we're responsible for ourselves. The Road Less Stupid advocates thinking, having the discipline to take time on a regular basis to actually think, okay? To not just spend all our time doing, but to actually, ponder the important questions. And what this book really does, I think, this is what I found to be really, really valuable, is this book gives you questions to ask. And, for example, in a chapter, Something for Nothing Seriously, he gives you a list of questions in what he calls thinking time. Where am I looking for the path of doing the least, or the door marked something for nothing to create the success I want? Are you doing that? Are you spending time looking for the low-hanging fruit? I mean, there is a lot of low-hanging fruit. We always make things so hard? We always feel like we got to go the hard way, but there is low-hanging fruit. And can you, where you can legally do things? Obviously you can rob a bank, but I wouldn't call that low-hanging fruit when you get caught. Under the banner of doing the work required to deserve the success I desire, what needs to be done? Now, that question is an amazing question, right? If you think about that question, under the banner of doing the work required to deserve the success I desire, what needs to be done? What do you need to do to get to your goal, right? This book gives you questions to ponder, because here's the thing about thinking. You can sit and meditate, basically, and clear your mind and actually try to avoid thinking about things, just let thoughts go through. And there's advantages to doing that. And I encourage people to meditate. I meditate every day. I think it's a really, really valuable exercise. And it does improve discipline. But what he's talking about, what Mr. Cunningham's talking about, is taking time to ask a question and then to really think about it, to write down answers, to really mull it over, to, and I'm adding this part, but, to go down the rabbit hole, right? Take the stream of consciousness, ask the question, and just keep, and what if, and what if, and what if, and what if, and keep going down the rabbit hole. Because what I have found is when I go down the rabbit hole of ways, I often come up with things that I would have never thought about, out of the box thinking, because it's related to something related, but it's ultimately related to the question that I'm pondering. All right. I talk about this in my book, Legalese: The Ultimate Guide to How to Survive a Law Practice. There's a thing called diffuse thinking, or diffused mode thinking, where basically you ask a question and then you just go about your day and do your thing, and it just percolates in your brain. And this is why when you're walking down the road, or you're taking a shower or whatever, all of a sudden something that you've been trying to think of pops into your head. It's like boom, because your brain was working the whole time, your mind was working the whole time. Well, this is fundamentally what Mr. Cunningham is advocating, right? Is that you actually have the discipline to take the time to think. Now, he advocates sitting in a chair with your favorite pen and a special notebook, and asking the question and then just write down, the responses that come in, good, bad, or indifferent. Just write them down, keep working at it, keep pondering it. It may take several shots at this to be successful. Okay. It's a great idea. I mean, as a matter of fact, not only is it a great idea, but if you're a professional, if you're a lawyer in particular, you need to have the discipline to have that thinking time. Now, the difference that I would have with Kenneth Cunningham is that you don't need to be sitting in your favorite chair with your favorite pen and your favorite notebook. For me, this works best when I'm riding a bike. Not riding super hard, not riding in a groove, not, running my heart rate up to, zone 5. But when I'm out just cruising and riding and just, getting the all of those, endorphins and whatnot, kicking in and exercising and being in the fresh air, that's what works for me. For other people, it might be just go for a walk. For other people, it might be sitting in your favorite chair. For other people, it may be, touching in nature. But here's the thing. You got to do it on a regular basis, right? It's not a one and done because there's not just one single question, right? You need to ask a good question. Sometimes you may need to take serious time in formulating that question, because if you ask the wrong question, right, you get answers that aren't useful. So let me give you an example. If you ask the question, why am I so broke? Why am I so broke? Well, your brain will come up with 100 reasons why you're broke. Whether you're broke or not, broke, and I mean this in a financial way, although it could be emotionally, it could be physically, it could be a whole bunch of things, but I was using it in an emotion or a physical, don't have any money kind of way. Your brain will come up with a million reasons why, whether you're actually broke or not. I certainly am broke compared to certain people, but I'm doing quite well compared to other people. So, being broke is kind of a mindset. But if you ask yourself that question, that negative question, your mind will come up with all the reasons. Why am I so fat? Why am I out of shape? Why don't I look like Brad Pitt? Why aren't I smarter? Why, all of these negative questions, your brain will spend time coming up with the reasons to convince you that, hey, yeah, there's really good reason why, you're broke. But if you ask the right question, the right question being something along the lines of, how can I turn this day into a profitable day? How can I use my time so that I make more money? How can I be more effective or efficient? How can I get my business doing what I want to do? Then, books like The Secret and The Magic all kick in, right? You begin to learn how to manifest, but it's all and if you don't like it, manifest, if that's too, hippy dippy, you come up with the strategies and the ideas in order to figure out a way to be successful. The bottom line, and you hear this all the time, but most of us don't believe it. We can all be successful. We may not be the best. Here in the United States, I think we get caught up and I'm the best. Well, you don't have to be the best, but matter of fact, there are a lot of super successful people you've never heard of because they're not the best. They may be, so think about this. If you're the 50th best golfer, in the world, you are, you should be a millionaire, right? You're making purses, right? So my point is that you don't have to be the best, but what you should be is the best that you can be, right? The best that you can be. I'm trying to be the best Mike Chastain that I possibly can be. You should try to be the best you that you can be. And part of that is thinking about the strategies. How do I, if one of the things that's holding you back is financial stress, if you're feeling financial stress, then figure that out. If you have health issues, you need to try to do the best you can to deal with those issues, whether it's diet or exercise or meditating or dealing with, if your business is having trouble, then, do your best to try to figure out what the problem is. And in business, like in many things, one of the quickest ways to do it is just get a mentor, get someone who's already been down the path, who can give you good feedback, who can talk to you about how you can overcome that success. See, when you're in the box, it's hard to see outside the box. But when you have someone who's dedicated and committed to helping your firm, for example, and they're outside the box, they're going to see things that you're not going to see. And I work with a lot of clients, and I often see things for them that are really easy to pick up on. So when you consider the right questions for getting you to the place that you want to be, because we don't all want to be in the same place either, right? I love it out here in New Mexico, but I would be the first to say New Mexico isn't for everybody. I've lived in California. I love California, but I would be the first to say that California is not for everybody. I visited a lot of places on the planet. New York City is an example. I would never want to live in New York City. But I know people who absolutely love it. So you got to figure out what's best for you. But The Road Less Stupid helps you with those questions. Now, the last one is The Third Door. And this is what I would call a modern day, and actually I read this as a review, so I'm not, this is not me coming up with this. This is a modern day Think and Grow Rich. Because in Think and Grow Rich, what Napoleon Hill did is he went and he interviewed some of the most successful people on the planet at the time, and tried to find out what were the commonalities that they did that made them successful. Tim Ferriss did the same thing in Tools of Titans and Tribe of Mentors. He interviews really, really successful people and asks them very specific questions, and they give great insight. What Tim Ferriss doesn't do is, I don't think he doesn't tie it in like Napoleon Hill did and come up with sort of a formula for being successful. But this is a modern day version of that. Alex, when he's like 19, 20 years old, goes on this quest to find out how people are successful. And he winds up interviewing incredibly successful people, Bill Gates and Tim Ferriss is an example. He talks to just amazing people and finds out what their formulas are. Now, the one thing I would say, and I don't want this to be as a criticism in any fashion, as much as just a comment. One of the people that he interviews is Kuai Lu, Qilu, and he, incredibly successful man from China, wound up very successful through Yahoo, and then with Microsoft. I mean, he's no doubt a certifiable genius. But one of the things that he uses is not sleeping, minimal sleep. Now, I have to say, and if you've listened to me before, I think that might work for certain people, but it's not going to work for most people. The science has demonstrated that your brain needs that sleep to recover. Your happiness will be dependent. Well, I mean, not wholly dependent, but in large part dependent on the amount of sleep you get. People who get enough sleep are happier. They feel better. Obviously, they have more energy. They're able to do things. Sleep is really critical. So that was, as I go through that was just the one. I was like, that one I don't think is a good idea for most of us. It certainly wouldn't have worked for me. And then, then I query the question, what would he have done had he actually gotten enough sleep? And maybe the answer is he would not have been successful because he needed that much time to do all of the things that he did, because he did amazing, amazing things. So we're at, I think we're well over our 20 minutes. The timer kind of pooped out on me here. So the books that we talked about: The Third Door, Alex Banion; The Road Less Stupid, Keith Cunningham; and Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. What ties all of these together is discipline, right? the discipline to be responsible for whatever you control in your life, the discipline to take time and really think through the questions that are being posed and that are important. And when you look at how other people are successful, I mean, the takeaway, it's nice to hear how all these other people are successful, right? But to me, the takeaway was that Alex had the discipline to go out and do it. And what he did is he got mentors. He got mentors who helped him figure it out. So as you know, one of the things that I do is I run MC Consulting. I work with small and solo law firm owners one-on-one to help them through challenges that they're having with their business, whether they want growth, whether they need to, they just need to make more money, or they need to manage their conduct better so they have more time. I work on all of that. Go to my website, MikeChastain.com, and you can see all about it, and I'm here to help. All right, everybody, I hope you all have a great day. I hope you found this helpful. I highly recommend that you read these books. And remember, be grateful for what you have, but be willing to work for what you want. All right, y'all, take care.